Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the chaotic, unbelievable events that went down in Jinguang Village, Cambodia. We're unpacking a terrifying worst-case scenario where everyday corporate negligence collides with the ultimate wild card. We're looking at the Mason chemical plant and how a totally local cover-up rapidly snowballed into an absolute ecological nightmare.
So, what exactly happens when toxic corporate waste meets an extraterrestrial meteorite? Well, let's dive into this bizarre mystery that spirals from a dirty local secret into an all-out fight for survival. You see, the disaster in Siem Reap province didn't just happen out of nowhere. It took a very specific, highly lethal combination of factors. On one side, you've got decades of unchecked, horrific industrial pollution. On the other, a completely unpredictable variable literally crashing down from the sky. It sounds like straight-up science fiction, right? But for the people on the ground, the consequences were devastatingly real.
You really get a sense of the sheer greed at play when you look at factory manager Wu Tanchong. When that meteorite struck the mountains right behind the village, Wu Tanchong didn't see a massive hazard, or even a scientific marvel. Even as people in the area were literally killed by the impact, his very first thought was dollar signs. He just saw rare substances. He actively ignored every single warning sign, focusing entirely on how these space rocks could line his pockets. And that greed totally blinded him to the actual physical threat mutating right in his own backyard. Before things go completely sideways, we need to meet the Geographic Ecology Organization team who arrived on July 2, 2021. They were originally dispatched just to run a standard environmental audit on the village. We've got Zhao Xiaoye leading the charge, backed up by Hu Tinming's incredibly crucial wilderness survival skills and assisted by Tong Xiaomei. They walked into this thinking it was a routine gig, only to find themselves completely trapped in an unprecedented crisis.
Section 1. The Factory's Toxic Secret. Because, before any alien rocks fell from the sky, there was already a slow-moving tragedy destroying Jinguang Village.
It's a classic, infuriating cover-up. We've got this stark contrast between the complicit politicians and the horrifying reality on the ground. The village chief, who, by the way, is actually the brother of our survival specialist Hu Tianming, kept insisting the factory was perfectly safe. Economic development, right? But the grim reality was that his own people were dropping dead. The chief actually helped Wu Decheng suppress the truth, telling the villagers that the sudden cancers and illnesses were just bad luck, completely ignoring the toxic runoff poisoning their homes.
So what was actually making them sick? It was Teflon anticoagulant wastewater. This is a highly potent, massively carcinogenic byproduct of the Mason chemical plant. Instead of doing the right thing and properly treating this dangerous liquid, Wu Decheng was just secretly pumping it directly into the local environment. When the ecology team took physical samples, they perfectly matched the toxic wastewater polluting the entire area. This wasn't a leak, this wasn't an oops. It was a calculated decision to save a few bucks on waste disposal at the direct expense of human lives.
And Zhao Xiaoye's investigation proved just how horrific the toll really was. The villagers were literally being poisoned for profit. You had young people dying of fatal leukemia, unable to even say goodbye to their families. There were severe pregnancy complications, like the heartbreaking situation with the villager Da Zhuang's family. The rivers were ruined, the vegetation was completely contaminated, the whole ecosystem was collapsing way before the real monster even showed up.
Moving to Section 2, the mutant predator attacks. The ecological balance was already shattered, but adding a meteorite to the mix, that was the spark in the powder keg.
Just look at how rapidly everything falls apart once that meteorite interacts with the polluted ecosystem. It's a terrifying timeline. Day 1, the rock hits. First thing the next morning, factory workers Xiao Guang and Xiao Wei go missing in the mountains. By the afternoon, investigators are finding massive claw marks that absolutely do not belong to a local wolf or tiger. And by nightfall, a cannibalistic giant mutated reptile is actively chasing the survivors through the woods right up to the factory's iron doors.
Now, how does a normal animal turn into a massive predator overnight? Researchers figured out it was the ultimate lethal cocktail. You take the local reptiles, expose them to the intense radiation of the alien meteorite, and mix it with that carcinogenic Teflon wastewater from the factory. The result is a hyper-aggressive, giant mutant reptile. It's a monster born entirely out of corporate negligence.
Which brings us to Section 3, Trapped with the Monster. In a twisted bit of irony, the survivors end up barricaded inside the very factory that caused the nightmare in the first place.
So the doors are locked, the monster is outside, but the tension inside is just as explosive. The truth finally comes out. Zhao Xiaoye publicly reveals that the factory poisoned the river. The villagers realize they've been completely lied to.
Hu Tianming confronts his own brother, the village chief, about covering it up. And Wu Dechang, even with a giant lizard trying to break down the doors, this guy is still violently demanding they hand over the ecological evidence to protect his profit margins.
Zhao Xiaoye really hits the nail on the head when she shouts this at Manager Wu. This confrontation is absolutely crucial because it strips away all the corporate PR. The monster outside is really just a physical manifestation of Wu Dechang's total disregard for human life. The people of Jinguang village gave this man their labor, their land, and their trust. In return, he gave them poisoned water and a mutated apex predator.
Section 4. A desperate sacrifice. Time is running out. They can't just hide forever, and they definitely can't let Wu Dechang bury the evidence. Hu Tianming and the group come up with this incredibly risky, multi-step plan to get the data out to their teacher on the outside. Primary comms are down, so they have to literally lure a giant monster toward a scrap shop just so someone can sprint across the island to a spare signal tower, hit the switch, punch in the exact password, 4 zeros and a 1, and pray the files upload. It's a massive, massive gamble.
And tragically, it's a gamble that comes at a heavy cost. Wang Fanping, the guy everyone calls Fatty, sacrifices himself to make it happen. See, Wu Dechang actually orders his armed goons to stop the transmission. He'd rather let them all die than let the pollution data leak. Wang Fanping steps up and intercepts the attackers so the team can hit send. His breathless final words are just a simple plea to be remembered. It's a profoundly human, heartbreaking moment right in the middle of all this chaos.
So, the dust settles on the island, and where does that leave us? Thanks to Wang Fanping's incredible bravery, the teacher gets the data. The factory's crimes are out there. But the nightmare isn't over. That massive mutant reptile is still loose on the island, tearing things apart. And Wu Dechang? He actually tries to make a run for it to steal the meteorite, but his greedy little escape gets violently interrupted by the very monster his own pollution helped create. Talk about karma. I want to leave you with this final thought today. When you look back at everything that happened, who is the true monster of Jinguang village? Yes, the giant mutated reptile was a terrifying, lethal force of nature, but the groundwork for the whole tragedy, the sickness, the lies, the environmental collapse, was laid by a man in a suit who cared more about profit margins than human lives. It really makes you wonder, when all is said and done, which threat is actually the most dangerous? Thank you so much for exploring this intense explainer with me today. Keep asking questions, keep digging for the truth, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hello guys, welcome to Hollywood movies trailers and coming soon movie. Hey YouTube, is my controversy on small activities real? So guys, subscribe. Let's begin and we start. Coming to amazing movie trailer story tomorrow 10 p.m.